So now we're going to talk about empiricism. So what we're trying to do here is we're trying to get down to what is science, right? That's really the ultimate question of this series is what is science? Science, as we said, is the systematic way of trying to explain the world. So what we need to do is determine how the world works. We've done that. We talked about that. Well, how do we determine how things work? Well, we measure it. We come up with information and we gather data. We gather empirical data. Not sure how you're supposed to say that word. Gather that information. That information will allow you to make determinations about the world. It's determined. This is gonna fall. It's just determined. It's not like because I want to. It's not because anyone else wants to. It's not because some being wants to. It's not because nothing. There's no reason it wants to. Just it's determined. We've determined through gathering enough empirical evidence. Well, how'd you do that? Well, we dropped a bunch of stuff. We measured. You come up with a way to measure it. The important things you really have to worry about here is if you're not being empirical, is you're measuring something subjective. How fast does this fall when I drop it? Kind of fast. No, that's not a good measurement. You're not going to come up with empirical data by saying it fell kind of fast. That's just, it's not good enough. You need to say, oh, it fell at this speed. Really, side note, for later videos, time is really important. When they dealt with gravity, you can't just measure its speed. It's always going to be different because it falls at a rate per second. So in that every second it grows and goes faster and faster as it goes. And we only found that out by coming up with an objective way to measure it. How are we going to measure it? We're going to measure it from the moment it's not being held up in the air anymore to the time it hits the ground. And we're going to see how long that takes. And we're going to come up with a number. You might also measure the distance and then do it at a greater distance and then do it at a smaller distance. And you measure it over and over again. We're not like, oh, it fell fast. Or how long do you think it fell? I don't know, I'd say like a quarter second. I was thinking like 3/4 seconds. All right, well, I don't know, let's just say 0.6. Are you cool with point? I'm cool with 0.6 if you're cool with 0.6. Yeah, but we'll say it was short, like really short. And then we dropped it again and it was really long. No, you're not going to get empirical information. You also can't come up with a way to gather information that's going to give you incorrect or a biased information, such as, I guess there was an old ketchup commercial where they would have a hidden camera at a picnic and they would have two ketchups. Which ketchup do people prefer? And every commercial showed that this brand's ketchup was selected. Well, it also turns out that most Americans have a right side bias. That ketchup was always on the right. So simply by always just having that ketchup on the right, it's going to show up in our measurement as, oh, that ketchup was selected this many times versus this ketchup that was selected a lower amount of times. Oh, that must be the superior ketchup. That's America's #1 ketchup. It's the ketchup we want. No, what you did is you measured right side bias. That's what you did. Not really good information. Not what we're trying to do. We're trying to come up with an objective way. So a lot of times you have to do counterbalances. So let's say with this ketchup information, well, what are we gonna do? We just can't do that. We can't have ketchup next to each other. No, you need to switch it. Sometimes it's on the right, sometimes it's on the left. You do enough information that, do you do enough picnics where sometimes it's on the right, sometimes it's on the left? Do you do it at halfway through the picnic? You switch the bottles, and then every other picnic, bottle A is on the right, and then the next picnic, bottle A starts on the left. You rotate that. Do you every 15 minutes changing it? Does changing the bottles change the information? Does that confound our data that we're trying to get? There's a lot of stuff going on. But what you're trying to do is get empirical information, empirical data, objective, unbiased, just great, measurable things, valid, reliable, all that stuff, believable information about the world so we can determine what's going on. Because if we can determine what's going on and say every time this happens, we got some good science. We've learned the laws of science. we've got some good science, and we can help people.